They thought she'd just run off. Cold feet. A rich girl from a big-name family, overwhelmed by wedding day pressure. But 6 years later, a retired K-9 named Rex started scratching at the floor of an old church in Echo Ridge, Colorado. And what he uncovered made one thing horrifyingly clear. Emily Prescott hadn't run. She'd been taken. It was early spring, 2030. Father Thomas Keller, the longtime priest at St. Mary's Church, was sorting through boxes in the sacristy. Old donation records, baptismal ledgers, and dusty photo albums. Just another quiet Tuesday. Then he noticed a loose floorboard behind the altar. When he lifted it, he found a small metal box, rusted and wedged between two joists. He pried it open with a letter opener. Inside was a simple silver engagement ring, engraved, "To Emily, my forever, R.M." Beneath it was a folded note written in fading ink. "If something happens to me, check Vault 317. The truth is there." Father Keller's stomach dropped. 6 years ago, during the wedding of her cousin Claire, Emily Prescott, the daughter of banking mogul Walter Prescott, had vanished without a trace from this very church. No signs of struggle, no witnesses, just gone. The media frenzy that followed still haunted the town. Now this. The priest picked up the phone and dialed the Echo Ridge Police Department. "This is Father Keller. I found something that may be connected to the Prescott case." 40 minutes later, a black SUV pulled into the gravel lot. Captain Miles Grant stepped out. He wasn't alone. Beside him trotted a large, gray-muzzled German shepherd. His ears stood tall. His posture was confident, alert, and calm. "Father Keller," Grant greeted, shaking the older man's hand. "This is Rex. He's semi-retired. Used to track explosives in Kandahar, and now he helps us with cold cases." Keller looked down at the dog. "He's beautiful." "He's smarter than half the squad," Grant muttered, stepping into the church. The priest handed over the ring and the note. Grant's expression darkened. This was never logged as evidence. "And these initials, R.M. Ryan Maddox?" Keller nodded. "He was the event planner. Did almost every Prescott function. After Emily vanished, he closed his business and skipped town." Grant crouched beside Rex and let him sniff the ring. The dog froze. His ears flicked. He took 2 steps toward the altar, paused, then began pawing at the baseboard. "Whoa," Grant murmured, motioning for the priest. "He's picking something up." They pried up a few more boards near the first one. Beneath them, barely visible in the dust, were faint chemical traces, later confirmed to be sedatives. It wasn't just a ring and a note. It was a crime scene. By nightfall, word had reached the Prescott family. Daniel Prescott, Emily's older brother, now CEO of the family bank, arrived at the church with a guarded expression and heavy eyes. He recognized the ring immediately. "She wore that every day," he said quietly, "even after she broke it off with Maddox." "Wait," said Grant. "They were engaged?" "Not officially," Daniel answered, "but close. She ended it after discovering he had gambling debts. Millions. Some of it stolen from his dad's company." While they spoke, Rex wandered toward the front pews. Suddenly, he stopped and barked. Once, short and sharp. Then again. He was standing by a narrow side closet. Inside, they found a bottle of communion wine with a broken seal. Lab tests later confirmed it had been laced with the same sedative. Emily hadn't left by choice. She'd been drugged. Grant turned to Daniel. "We found this note," he said, handing him the faded scrap. "Vault 317. Mean anything to you?" Daniel blinked. "It's one of our safety deposit boxes. An old one. My father kept the master key. When he died, it passed to me." "Did you ever open it?" "No. We marked it as inactive. I figured it was just some dusty paperwork." "Can we see it?" Daniel hesitated. "Yeah. Tomorrow morning. I'll arrange it." The next day, in the basement vaults of Prescott Bank, Daniel unlocked Box 317. Rex sat quietly beside them, ears flicking at each metallic creak. Inside, a manila folder labeled Emily, private, a dusty iPhone, a USB drive. Grant powered on the phone. Miraculously, it still had a flicker of battery. The last message, time-stamped April 14th, 2024, read, "Ryan, I'm telling Daniel everything. Meet me in the sacristy in 10 minutes. This ends tonight." Daniel's face went pale. She was going to expose him. Want more stories where brave animals help uncover the truth? Subscribe to Heroes for Animals on YouTube and be part of the stories that matter. Grant plugged the USB into his secure laptop. A single audio file played. It was Emily's voice, frightened, breathless. "If something happens to me, Ryan Maddox has been forging Dad's signature. He's stolen over $10 million from the bank. I have the records in the vault. I'm not going to be silent anymore." For a long time, no one spoke. "She knew," Daniel whispered. "She knew, and he silenced her." Grant stood, his voice low. He didn't just want the money. He needed her gone to stay invisible. Outside, Rex stood at the edge of the sidewalk, sniffing. The air was calm, but his posture changed. He lowered his head and began walking, nose to concrete, tail stiff. "He's got something," said Grant. Daniel watched the dog, a strange kind of hope flickering in his chest for the first time in 6 years. Rex was following the past, and the trail had only just begun. It had been less than 48 hours since Rex clawed up those floorboards at St. Mary's Church, and already the Emily Prescott case had gone from dusty cold file to red-hot firestorm. Detective Miles Grant had learned long ago coincidence was just what lazy cops called evidence they didn't want to dig into. And Rex? Rex didn't believe in coincidence either. His nose always told the truth. Grant sat in the precinct conference room with Daniel Prescott, flipping through event logs from the day of the wedding. Ryan Maddox showed up again and again. He'd planned the entire event: flower trucks, guest lists, seating charts, choir times. By every account, he was meticulous. Too meticulous. "He was like a family friend," Daniel muttered, rubbing his temples. "Emily trusted him. We all did." "Then how does a guy like that disappear right after your sister does?" Rex let out a short bark. He was pacing around the room, tail swaying like a metronome, when he stopped at a yellow envelope labeled "Bridal Prep, April 14th. Inside were printed snapshots from the bridesmaid suite. Girls fixing each other's makeup, laughing, sipping champagne. One photo showed Emily in a soft blue dress standing alone near the window. Her face wasn't smiling. She looked off, worried, distracted. In the corner of the photo, half cropped out, was a man with a clipboard and slicked-back hair. "That's Maddox," Daniel said, tapping the corner. Rex gave a low whine. He pressed his nose to the photo, then turned and walked straight down the hallway. "Where's he going?" Daniel asked. "Back in time," Grant replied. "Rex can track trace chemicals even years old. Human scent doesn't really vanish, it just waits." They followed Rex out to the side entrance of the church, where vendors had unloaded that day. The brick was worn smooth by time and weather, but Rex moved with purpose. He circled once, then again, before stopping near an old metal drain pipe and sitting down. Grant knelt beside him. Wedged in the grime was a torn slip of paper, folded and soaked through. Later that night, after drying it out with a heat lamp, the words came into focus. A burner phone receipt, dated April 14th, 2024, purchased at a local dollar store. The name? Robert Miles. "That's Maddox," Grant muttered. "Used that alias twice before." Daniel leaned forward. "The timestamp. Look, it's from 2 hours before the wedding started." Maddox hadn't planned a wedding that day. He'd planned an escape. The next morning, Grant, Rex, and Daniel stopped by the tiny shop listed on the receipt. The cashier, a college-aged woman with pink hair named Tessa, didn't recognize Maddox's photo, but Rex did. He sniffed the floor behind the counter, then barked once and nudged a metal trash bin. "You changed out this can recently?" Grant asked. "Yeah," Tessa said. About 6 weeks ago. Old one went to Echo Ridge Sanitation. Grant called in a favor. 2 hours later, they were sifting through warehouse storage bins full of discarded debris. Rex dug through the pile like a dog possessed. His paw hit plastic. Inside, a cracked burner phone case and a half-melted SIM card. Back at the lab, the data team recovered 3 deleted texts, all from a contact labeled RM. She's gonna talk. We can't stop her this time. Emily meeting Daniel after the ceremony. She's gonna show him everything. Meet me in sacristy, 10 minutes, fix it. Daniel gripped the table. That's the exact timeline she vanished. She planned to tell you everything, Grant said. And he knew it. That night, Grant dug deeper into Maddox's past. According to postal logs, Ryan had kept a P.O. box under his LLC, Silverline Events, until just a few weeks after Emily disappeared. After that, nothing. Vanished again. With a court order in hand, they opened the long-abandoned P.O. box. There wasn't much. Old promotional flyers, expired bills. But one envelope, never mailed, had Emily's handwriting. Daniel, if you're reading this, I didn't get the chance to talk to you. Ryan's been stealing from Dad's clients, falsifying wire transfers. I found digital copies in his laptop. Vault 317 has backups. Please trust me. If something happens, it's because I was right. Daniel wiped his face. She was scared, but she never backed down. Rex pressed his head gently into Daniel's side. No one spoke for a long moment. They decided to revisit Maddox's last known residence, a condo building off Maplewood Lane. The current tenants had moved in 3 years ago, but the building manager, a woman named Brenda, remembered something odd. He came back once, she said, middle of the night, hauled out boxes with 2 guys, didn't even stop to say hi, like he was cleaning up. Did he leave anything behind? Maybe. There's an old storage locker in the basement nobody's touched since then. With permission, they descended into the cinder-block basement. Dust hung in the air like fog. Most of the shelves were empty. Broken lamps, rusted cans. Rex kept sniffing the ground. Then he stopped. His tail straightened. He scratched at the far wall. Behind a loose floor tile, they found a plastic envelope. Inside, a photo of Emily, smiling stiffly at what looked like a family brunch. Across the back, written in thick red ink, "She knew too much." Grant looked at Daniel. Someone was watching her, following her. Daniel's voice cracked. This wasn't a panicked mistake. He planned it. Rex let out a low growl. His ears were drawn back, his body rigid. He knew the scent. Someone had stood here, right here, watching, planning, covering up the crime of the decade. And now, Rex was on their trail. The scent of old paper and buried secrets filled the room like smoke. Rex stood like a statue next to the open safety deposit box, his amber eyes fixed on the iPhone resting on top of a folder labeled Emily, Private. A small USB drive blinked faintly in the corner, as if begging to be heard. Captain Miles Grant had seen a lot in 20 years of detective work. But this wasn't just a cold case warming up. It was a fire quietly reigniting. Daniel Prescott leaned against the wall of the Prescott Bank vault, arms folded tightly across his chest. His knuckles were white. This phone, Grant said, thumbing the screen, might be the only voice Emily had left. The screen came to life. A plain background. Few apps, but the messaging app was open, still sitting on a thread with a contact named RM. Emily. Ryan, I'm telling Daniel everything. You lied. You stole from Dad's clients. Don't be dramatic. We can fix this. Emily, this ends tonight. Sacristy. 10 minutes. Daniel's eyes didn't move. She was trying to save the company, he muttered. She was trying to protect the family. And she knew she might not get the chance, Grant added softly. He slipped the USB into a department-issued laptop. It booted automatically into a folder named RM Fraud. The files loaded fast. Hundreds of pages of PDFs, wire transfers, contracts, spreadsheets. $5.2 million, all funneled through shell companies and offshore accounts, from Delaware to the Caymans to Zurich. Every path pointed back to one man, Ryan Maddox. Some of the forms even bore Walter Prescott's signature, Daniel and Emily's father. Grant arched a brow. "Your dad really signed all this?" "No chance," Daniel said flatly. "He hated digital paperwork. He used pen and ink. So Maddox faked it. Ryan had access to our systems. He ran all our events. He'd submitted invoices before with Dad's approval. He knew how to mimic the process." A separate subfolder labeled Insurance showed scans of contracts, some legitimate, others forged, between Maddox's firm and his elite clients. Corporate galas, high-end fundraisers, weddings worth more than most homes. And every one of them connected to money that disappeared. "Emily was going to blow this wide open," Grant whispered. "She got too close." Just then Rex growled low in his throat. He pawed gently at the bottom of the deposit box. Grant lifted the remaining folder, revealing a single Polaroid photo. Emily and Maddox standing at a Prescott gala 6 months before the wedding. Maddox's hand was too firm on her back, her smile too stiff. "She didn't want to be near him," Daniel said, voice tight. "She told me after they broke it off that he was clingy, controlling. Could be more than that." Grant slipped the photo into a plastic sleeve. "We need to talk to people who saw them together in those last weeks." Back at St. Mary's, Father Keller waited by the altar, hands clasped in front of him. As soon as they walked in, Rex darted toward the back confessional booth. It hadn't been used in years. "What's he doing?" Daniel asked. Grant watched. "He's found something." Rex scratched at the wooden paneling until Grant opened it. Behind the lattice, tucked into the woodwork, was a small flash drive wrapped in masking tape. They plugged it in. It was audio. Emily's voice again, clearer this time. The date stamp was April 12, 2024. "Dad's been on edge. He doesn't know the truth. Ryan's using fake signatures, 6 fake accounts. I've followed the trail." Another file. A conversation, heated, tense. "Emily, you're stealing. I found the transfers, Ryan. Ryan, I'm doing this for you. For us." "Emily, my dad is sick. This stress could kill him. Ryan, then maybe he should die." "Funny, if he die, you want to stop me? Try." Grant paused the recording. The church was dead silent. "That's motive," he said. "Premeditated, malicious." That afternoon, they drove to Denver to speak with someone who had worked for Maddox back then. His assistant, Lindsay Carver. She was hesitant at first, but Rex had that effect on people. She eventually agreed to meet in a quiet cafe just off Colfax Avenue. "Ryan was always intense," she said. "Charming at first. But behind closed doors it was different. He had me change invoice dates, rewrite payment logs." "Why didn't you report it?" Grant asked. Lindsay looked away. "Because a week after Emily disappeared, he paid off my student loans, all $48,000, just gone." "Did you see them argue?" "Twice. One time she yelled loud enough for the whole office to hear. She told him she'd ruin him if he didn't come clean. He just stared at her." "Like he wasn't scared?" "No," she whispered, "like he already had a plan." As they got up to leave, Rex rubbed his head lightly against Lindsay's leg. She smiled and teared up a little. That evening, back at a Prescott bank, Daniel and Grant dug deeper into the building's security logs. Rex lay curled beside the desk, tail twitching. "There," Daniel said, pointing. "Maddox entered the building at 3:52 a.m. on the morning of the wedding." "Why was?" Grant asked. "He wasn't on any planning schedule for that time. He said he needed to pick up linen samples, but maybe he was planting something," Grant finished, "or taking something." Rex perked up. He stood and walked toward the executive meeting room. Daniel followed. "That room hasn't been used since Dad passed." Rex scratched at a supply closet near the back of the room. Inside, beneath a stack of old notebooks, was a locked metal drawer. They forced it open. Inside, more invoices. more offshore wire records. And a photo? Maddox standing beside a sharply dressed man with graying hair and a navy blue tie. On the back of the photo, someone had scribbled, Torres, Civil Registry, $50K. Grant stiffened. He bribed a registrar. For fake marriage records? Daniel asked. New identities? Could be how he made Emily disappear legally. You think she's alive? Grant looked down at Rex, whose ears were standing at attention. If she is, this dog is going to be the one who finds her. And Rex wagged his tail, slow, determined. He already had the scent. The drive to Aspen Hollow was quiet. Too quiet. A long, winding road snaked through the evergreens, framed by pine-covered hills and leftover snow on the shoulders. Rex sat in the back seat of the cruiser, ears twitching at every bump in the road. His eyes never left the tree line. Captain Grant glanced at him in the mirror. He knows something's close. Daniel Prescott, riding shotgun, nodded without taking his eyes off the GPS. We're not far. Maddox used to mention a cabin up here. Said it was where he'd go to disconnect. Funny word for a guy building a fraud empire, Grant muttered. When they reached the address, an old A-frame cabin tucked between two rocky hillsides, everything about it felt wrong. The paint was peeling. The porch sagged. But the driveway was packed with fresh tire tracks. And a brand-new padlock on the door gleamed in the sunlight. Somebody's been here, Grant said, already stepping out. Rex jumped from the cruiser and began sniffing immediately. He trotted straight toward the porch steps, then suddenly stopped. A low growl rumbled in his throat. Daniel crouched beside him. What is it, boy? Rex sniffed again. He pawed the porch floorboard once, twice, then barked sharply. Grant approached with bolt cutters. The lock snapped with a clean click. The door creaked open into a stale, musty space, but underneath the decay was something newer. Unopened water bottles, protein bars, a satellite phone plugged into an outlet. Someone's been staying here, Grant said, not long ago. They cleared the first floor. A folding chair. Empty ramen packets. A tiny space heater still warm. Upstairs, a twin bed had fresh sheets. A pair of men's hiking boots were tucked beneath. But it was the closet that stopped them cold. Inside, behind a duffel bag and a coat, was a cardboard box, labeled in black marker, E.H. Daniel opened it with trembling hands. Inside, a light blue dress, matching shoes, and a soft leather purse. That's, he started, choking on the words. That's what she wore the day she vanished. Grant turned to Rex. The dog was locked in, nose low, tail stiff. He was staring at the attic door. Let's check it. In the attic, everything changed. There was a desk with paperwork, a burner laptop, and, most disturbingly, photos. Dozens of printed photographs taped to the wall. Emily at the bank. Emily walking her dog. Emily at the gym. Each one circled in red ink. Grant peeled one down and held it under the flashlight. He stalked her for months. Another showed Emily and Daniel at their father's retirement dinner. Another, Emily talking to a man outside a coffee shop. Who's this? Grant asked. Daniel squinted. That's Roberto, her ex. They broke up months before she vanished. But he's still meeting with her. They said they'd stay friends, but Emily never mentioned any meetings. In the corner of the attic was a small steel safe. Grant cracked it open using Maddox's known passcodes. Birthdays, business IDs. Inside, printed bank records. Money transfers to Switzerland, Belize, and the Caymans. The total added up to over $10 million. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. He didn't just steal money. He stole her life. A sudden sharp bark from Rex jolted them back. He had his nose pressed against the attic floorboards. Grant pulled back the rug. A narrow trap door. What the hell? They opened it carefully. A ladder led down into a crawl space lined with thick insulation. In one corner, hidden under canvas tarp, they found a locked storage trunk. Inside, women's clothing, toiletries, a driver's license. Emily Prescott. But the name had been changed. Elaine Harris, a fake ID. Daniel held it in his hand like it might explode. He was creating a whole new identity for her. Grant nodded. He didn't plan to kill her. He planned to erase her. They returned to Echo Ridge with photos, bank records, and the fake ID. That night, Grant's phone rang. It was Linda Cortez, a data analyst on the state financial crimes team. "I ran the offshore transfers. Maddox didn't act alone," she said. "Every wire was cross-signed by someone named Torres, civil registry officer in Santa Fe. He's been flagged in 3 previous fraud probes." "The same Torres in the photo," Grant muttered. "He's helped forge over 20 identities in the last 10 years, all for cash." "And Emily?" "Her name was changed in April 2024, legally. Paper trail leads to a private psychiatric facility in New Mexico." Grant's stomach turned. "You're saying Maddox committed her to a hospital under a fake name?" "Yes. It's a facility that doesn't ask questions, as long as the bills get paid." The next morning, they drove to the Silver Pines Psychiatric Center, a facility that looked more like a luxury lodge than a hospital. High fences, quiet grounds, and soft classical music playing in the lobby. Grant and Daniel were accompanied by 2 state officers. Rex stayed in the car, for now. Inside, they met with the hospital administrator, Dr. Wallace. "We're looking for a patient admitted in April 2024, Grant said. "Name was Elaine Harris." Dr. Wallace scrolled through the system. "Yes, she's still here. Admitted under psychiatric trauma. Advised long-term care." "Who signed her in?" Dr. Wallace turned the screen. "Her husband, Ryan Maddox." Daniel clenched his fists. "We'd like to see her," Grant said. "She's heavily medicated," Wallace replied. "She doesn't communicate much." "She will," Daniel said. The room was soft. Padded walls, dim light, an old television flickering static. And there she was. Emily sat on the bed, thinner, pale, her long hair tied back in a low braid. She stared blankly ahead. Daniel stepped inside. "Emily?" She blinked. Her eyes didn't focus. "It's me, Daniel." Her head tilted slightly. Behind them, Grant turned as Rex padded in quietly, tail low. Emily turned toward the sound. Her eyes widened. "Rex," she whispered. The dog trotted forward and gently rested his head in her lap. Tears welled in her eyes. "Rex, you came back." Daniel dropped to his knees beside her. "Emily, we found you. You're safe." She started sobbing. Years of confusion, fear, and silence unraveling in seconds. Grant's voice was calm but steady. "Let's get her out of here." That night, back in Echo Ridge, Daniel tucked his sister into her old bed, untouched since 2024. Their mother sat beside her, holding her hand like she might disappear again. Downstairs, Grant was already drafting arrest warrants. Maddox, Torres, and one more surprise. A wire transfer made by Roberto, Emily's ex-boyfriend, dated just days before her disappearance. Daniel stared at the document. "He was in on it?" Grant nodded grimly. "Looks that way." "And Rex?" Rex sat by the fireplace, his eyes locked on the front door, as if he knew the job wasn't done yet. Not even close. The next morning in Echo Ridge was cold, cloudy, and still. But inside the Prescott house, the air was electric. Emily was home. She sat wrapped in a soft flannel blanket. On the couch in the living room, she barely remembered. Her eyes drifted to the fireplace, the bookshelves, the old family photos. All of it familiar, yet somehow distant. Like waking up from a dream you couldn't quite place. Rex lay on the floor next to her, head resting on his paws, eyes never leaving her face. Daniel sat across from her, holding a mug of coffee in both hands, as if grounding himself with the warmth. "You don't have to talk about it yet," he said gently. "Just know you're safe now." Emily nodded slowly, voice quiet. "I don't know what's real yet, but I know Rex is." The big shepherd wagged his tail once. Upstairs, Captain Grant finished his call with the state task force. He came down the steps, 2 at a time. "Warrants are active. Ryan Maddox is officially a fugitive." Daniel stood. You think he knows we found her? Most likely. His fake ID purchases went dark. Last sighting was in Durango 3 nights ago, driving a white Ford Edge. Emily looked up. That's the car he used to take me to the clinic. He said we were going on a retreat. Grant paused. Do you remember anything else about that drive? She furrowed her brow. He played classical music, loud, and he stopped at a gas station. There was a sign. Welcome to Española. That's how I knew we were in New Mexico. Grant nodded and jotted it down. That confirms the path. And Española is only an hour from Santa Fe. Daniel paced. What about Torres, the civil registrar? He helped forge Emily's new identity, paid off to make her Elaine Harris on paper. Grant smirked. That's the fun part. Torres was arrested in Santa Fe an hour ago. He's singing like a parrot. Later that day, they headed back to the Silver Pines Clinic, this time with a full warrant team, medical staff, and Rex. Emily insisted on coming too. She wore jeans, a thick hoodie, and Daniel's old baseball cap. Her hand never left Rex's fur. I need to say goodbye to that place, she said firmly. It's how I start moving forward. They pulled into the gravel lot around 5 p.m. The sun was dipping low, casting long shadows over the tall white fences. The facility looked quiet. Too quiet. Gates unlocked, one officer said. No signs of active staff. Grant motioned to 2 agents. Check the admin wing. Look for Wallace. He turned to Rex. You know the place, buddy. Lead us. Rex barked once and trotted toward the east wing. Emily swallowed hard. Room 216. That's where he kept me. Inside, the building smelled like antiseptic and stale air. Emily's fingers trembled slightly, but she kept walking, one step at a time. Rex was right beside her. They reached room 216. Emily took a deep breath. This used to be my prison. She opened the door. The bed was made, curtains drawn. A fake plant sat in the corner, empty, cold, still. Daniel looked around. He emptied the place. Grant walked to the bathroom door. Inside, a used teacup, a prescription pill bottle, and a half-smoked cigar in the sink. Maddox was here, maybe hours ago. Then Rex froze. He let out a guttural growl and turned toward the hallway. Grant's hand went to his holster. Someone's here. They moved quietly, footsteps soft on the vinyl floors. Rex led them to the administrative office. Behind the reception desk, a back door stood slightly ajar. They crept in. Maddox was standing by the back exit, holding a suitcase in one hand and a Glock in the other. His beard was longer. His eyes hollowed, clothes wrinkled. He spun. Emily? She stood at the far end of the hallway, pale, steady, unafraid. You drugged me, she said. You took my life. Maddox stepped forward. I kept you safe. You don't understand. I loved you. Love doesn't lock someone away for 6 years. Rex snarled and lunged forward as Maddox raised the gun. One shot rang out. The bullet struck the wall above Daniel's head. Grant fired once. Maddox collapsed, the suitcase sliding across the floor. Rex pinned him, teeth bared inches from his throat. Stand down, boy, Grant ordered. Rex stepped back, chest heaving. Maddox groaned. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Emily walked up slowly, looked him dead in the eyes. You don't get to decide how my story ends. Back in Echo Ridge, news of Maddox's arrest spread like wildfire. Reporters camped outside the police station. The Prescott name made headlines again, but this time not as a mystery, but as a story of justice and survival. Emily stayed quiet, for now. She slept most of the next 2 days, ate meals in silence, took short walks with Rex in the backyard. But each morning, she seemed a little more present, a little more herself. One afternoon, she sat with Daniel on the porch. Do you think I'll ever feel normal again? She asked. No, he said honestly. Not like before, but you'll feel something better, real, grounded. And what about him? Maddox is facing charges for kidnapping, fraud, forgery, and attempted murder. He's not getting out. She nodded. Then she reached down and scratched Rex behind the ears. This guy kept me sane. Even in the dark, I used to dream that he was coming. Daniel smiled. He never gave up. Neither did we. Grant came by later that evening. "Emily," he said, sitting across from her. "I know it's a lot, but there's a trial coming. You'll be asked to testify. When you're ready." She took a deep breath. "I'll do it." "You sure?" "I lived it. Now I'll speak it. And I want people to know how it happened, so it never happens again." Grant nodded. "There's one more thing. Roberto." Emily blinked. "Roberto? My ex?" Grant pulled out a file. "He's been cooperating. Turns out Maddox used his debts as leverage. Roberto gave him access, codes, routine bank procedures. He claims he didn't know what Maddox was planning, but he was part of it." "Yes? Is he in jail?" "Not yet. He's under protective custody. He's agreed to testify, too." Emily looked down. He was weak, but Maddox was evil. She stood. "Let's take them both down." That night, Daniel found Emily journaling by the fireplace. She'd written 5 pages already. "Writing your statement?" She nodded. "That. And everything else. What I remember. What I don't. The dreams. The silence. Think you will ever publish it? Maybe, one day, but for now it's just for me." Rex climbed onto the couch beside her, tail gently thumping. Emily smiled. "Some stories we survive, others we rewrite." And with that, the healing truly began. It was a quiet morning in Echo Ridge. The courthouse, freshly renovated, stood at the heart of the small town like a monument to the past, and, as it would turn out, the future. Inside, the atmosphere was heavy, charged with the tension of a trial that had captivated everyone who had followed Emily Prescott's disappearance. Rex lay at Emily's feet, his body stretched out beside her on the bench in the crowded courthouse. His eyes were alert, his ears flicking as people walked by. He wasn't just here for Emily, he was here for the truth. The trial had begun. Ryan Maddox, once a trusted member of the Prescott family's inner circle, sat on the other side of the courtroom, his face grim and pale. The jury watched him carefully, though no one in the room was under any illusions about the outcome. His fate was sealed. The only question now was how far the lies went, and who else would be exposed. Grant had told Emily to take her time before speaking on the stand, but she had insisted. She wasn't going to let anyone else speak for her. When her name was called, she stood and walked to the witness box. Rex stood too, with a soft, steady whine. "He stays," she said, her voice strong and clear. "He's part of the evidence." The judge, a fair man with years of experience, nodded. "The dog may stay with you. Please proceed when you're ready." Emily's eyes scanned the room as she took her seat. Her hands shook slightly, but Rex nudged her leg, grounding her. It was almost like he knew how hard this would be. She took a deep breath, then began. "It's hard to talk about the last 6 years, to explain how they felt, how I felt, how I was erased. Not just from my family's life, but from my own life," she started, her voice carrying across the courtroom. "But I'm not the only one. And I'm not the last. I need people to understand that what happened to me can happen to anyone." Emily paused, meeting Maddox's eyes for the first time since the arrest. He didn't look at her. He couldn't. "I wasn't just a victim of someone stealing from my family," she continued. "I was trapped in a lie, a fabricated life. He made me Elaine. He took my name, my freedom, my future. But he couldn't take my mind. He couldn't take my will to fight. And I fought, even when I didn't know I could." Tears welled up in her eyes, but she didn't look away from Maddox. "You stole my life, but you couldn't steal my voice. And I'm using it now." The room was silent. Even the prosecutor, a hard-nosed woman named Emily Harding, looked moved. Grant nodded, a small but approving gesture from the back of the room. He knew what this meant. Emily had done more than testify. She had taken back the power Maddox had tried to steal. The trial stretched for weeks. Every day, new evidence came to light. The fraudulent transfers, the forged signatures, the hidden accounts in foreign countries. Every lie that Maddox told, every manipulation he made, was exposed for the world to see. But it was the testimony from Emily and the damning video footage of Maddox's confession that sealed his fate. He had tried to get away with it all, but in the end, the truth was too big to hide. The jury deliberated for only a few hours before returning their verdict. "Guilty," the foreman declared, his voice echoing in the now still courtroom. Maddox's shoulders slumped. He didn't even try to put up a fight. He knew it was over. A few days later, as the courtroom cleared out, Emily stood outside in the cold spring air. Rex was by her side, his tail wagging gently as she looked around at the small crowd that had gathered to watch the proceedings. "Emily?" Grant called out, walking toward her with a folder in hand. "You did something remarkable today." "Thanks, but it wasn't just me. It was Rex, too. I would have never been able to stand up there without him." Grant smiled and handed her the folder. "You know, the state just passed a new law. They're calling it the Emily Law. It's going to change the way we handle cases like yours, protecting victims of identity theft, fraud, and coercion. It won't bring back what you lost, but it will make sure others don't go through the same thing." Emily looked down at Rex, who was now sitting at her feet, eyes steady, ears flicking toward her. "I couldn't have done it without him," she said quietly. "He saved me more times than I can count." Grant nodded. "And he's going to continue saving people. You've made sure of that." She smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I guess that's what matters now. Moving forward. Helping others." Months passed, and life in Echo Ridge slowly returned to normal. The media coverage died down, but Emily's story lived on. Her foundation, the Emily Prescott Foundation for Victims of Financial Crimes, opened its doors to people from all over the state who needed help navigating the complex world of financial fraud and identity theft. Her first order of business? A series of talks on how to recognize warning signs and protect yourself from becoming a victim, especially women like her, who had been manipulated by someone they trusted. Daniel helped run the foundation, using his experience from the banking world to offer guidance and advice. But it was Emily who was the face of the organization, and Rex who was always by her side. As they sat together in the evening, watching the sunset from the Prescott family porch, Emily reflected on everything she had been through. The past had been painful, but she had made it through, and now she was standing tall. She had a future again. A real future. "Thank you," she whispered to Rex, who rested his head on her lap. He looked up at her, his tail giving a slow thump. "You're my hero," she said, smiling. And as the sun dipped behind the mountains, Emily knew she had reclaimed more than just her life. She had reclaimed her voice, her power, and her place in the world. Thank you so much for following Emily's journey with Rex, the K9 who helped uncover the truth. This story is one of survival, courage, and redemption. But it's also about something more: the power of animals to heal, protect, and lead us through our darkest times. What do you think? Can a dog truly change the course of a life? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe to Heroes for Animals for more stories of incredible animal bravery. Let us know what Heroes for Animals story you'd like to hear next.